People often ask me where my office is on the campus at Ole Miss, and I always tell them, this is my office, the Greek system here. We have some of the biggest fraternities in the nation. For example, you can't see the KA house. It's around the corner here on this frat area. But the KA house had over 100 pledges last fall, making it the biggest chapter in the nation. The Phi Delta house is just this way from the KA house, biggest chapter in the nation. The Sigma Nu house over there, biggest chapter in the nation. They initiated a couple random guys a couple years ago, Archie and Eli Manning. And then you've got the Sigma Chi house over here behind you. I'm pledge advisor over pledgeship, and we initiated 69 pledges last fall, which made it the second biggest pledge class in the history of Sigma Chi, second only to 3 years ago when this chapter initiated a large class. The ATO house is in the distance, biggest chapter in the nation for ATO. My point is, we've got one of the biggest Greek systems in the nation, and my question I want to address is, would Jesus have associated with these guys? So in light of that, let me take us to Matthew chapter 9, and I want to read a story. It's the story of Jesus asking Matthew to join him. It says in chapter 9, verse 9 of Matthew, it says, as Jesus passed on from there, he saw a man called Matthew sitting in a tax booth, and he said to him, follow me, and he rose and followed him. And as Jesus reclined at the table in the house, behold, many tax collectors and sinners came, and they were reclining with Jesus and his disciples. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? But when he had heard this, he said, those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Now, my first question is, who was Jesus spending a large majority of his time with? Mainly the sinners, the tax collectors. There's a couple different people in the story. You've got Jesus, you've got the Pharisees, you've got Matthew, his friends, all these sinners, and then you've got the disciples. Here's what I think. I think the Pharisees are outside the room. The room's crowded with sinners, and the Pharisees can't even walk into the room, although they will be declared ceremonially unclean. So here they are outside the room. Jesus is sitting at the table. He's hanging out with these sinful people, and all of a sudden I think he stops. He says, excuse me, because he discerns what the Pharisees are saying, and that's when he says, those who are well have no need of a physician, but it's those who are sick. And then he goes right back into talking and hanging out with these people. You see, I think Jesus would spend most of his time with the lost. And the Greek system is a great place for you to spend your time. Look at chapter 11. In Matthew chapter 11, this is pretty interesting. Jesus says this in chapter 11, verse 19. He talks about himself as the Son of Man, and he says, the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, look at him, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and a sinner. Okay, and sinners. So what are they calling Jesus? A friend of sinners. He was a glutton. He's a drunkard. Well, why would they call him a drunkard and a glutton? It's because he's spending all his time with the lost over at these parties. Now, if I'm correct, Jesus had taken a Nazirite vow, so he may not even drink wine at all. But the fact that he was simply associating with these people gave him a bad reputation with the Pharisees. I think a lot of times, to be honest, you all, that Christians, and I've been in the Greek system now, this is my 29th year in the Greek system. I've been working here at Ole Miss for 21 years, and I feel like more times than not, most Christians spend their times looking more like the Pharisees than they do Jesus. If you're in high school and you're thinking about going to college and you're a Christian, I would love for you to really pray about maybe joining a fraternity or sorority to have an influence, to make a difference for Christ. If you're a freshman and you've pledged a house, maybe it's not the house you wanted or the chapter you wanted to be a part of. Remember, you're not the one that gets yourself in the fraternity. It's not your looks and who you know. It's God, if you're a believer. All right? If you're a junior and you're a senior and you're starting to get caught up in your resume or a girlfriend or boyfriend, you know what I would do is challenge you to really think about, why are you in that house? Because I believe never again in the rest of your life will you know so many people who will know you and look up to you and respect you. If you're a junior and senior, man, my feeling is you need to be living in the house. You need to be eating all your meals in the house. I lived in the fraternity house 2 years at Arkansas when I was there, and man, those are some of the highlights of my life. I went to every chapter meeting, every party. I was right there so that I earned the right to stand up at chapter and say what I said, or say what I wanted to say, or met with the pledges. Never again, I'll repeat myself, might you be around so many people who know you and will look up to you and can respect you. Now the key is being consistent. If you're consistent over the long time, yeah, you make mistakes, we all make mistakes, I made mistakes, but the Lord can really use you in the Greek system. This is a huge group of people that need to know about the Lord. Now, If you're a campus minister, I want you to really think about going to these places, praying for them. I'm going to have all kinds of videos on this website that train you. You can contact me through email. I want to be a resource for you so that we can reach every fraternity and sorority guy and girl with the gospel around the nation. Now, since I've been working with in full-time ministry, this is my 25th year, at times I've really struggled with the issue of, why am I reaching these guys and girls? What about the orphans and the widows? My sister's a missionary in Honduras, and I've gone there twice and helped her, and she literally works with the orphans, the outcasts, the street kids, and I've struggled at times. Why, God, have you called me to be here with these guys? But let me remind you of what I think reminds me of a lot of fraternity and sorority guys and girls. And if you go to Revelation chapter 3, verse 17, listen to this. This to me, Jesus is talking to the church of Laodicea, and he's really talking to the church of the future, and I think it's kind of your typical, to be honest, almost like fraternity and sorority guy and girl, and he says this: "For you say I am rich, I have prospered, and I need nothing, not realizing that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy for me gold refined by fire, so that you may be rich, and white garments, so that you may clothe yourself, and the shame of your nakedness may not be seen." He says, hey, you think you've got it all together? You think you're looking good? You don't realize that you're miserable, wretched, poor, blind, and naked. Y'all, I would challenge you to join with me and pray for the Greek system. Pray for the Greek system on your campus. Pray for the fraternity and sorority that God may be calling you to be a part of. I don't think that God wants all the Christians to be together, and he sure doesn't want you to leave your junior and senior year and go off and create your own little holy huddle. You need to be right here active. You need to be the officers. You need to be the chaplain. You need to be the pledge trainer. It's a great time to reach people. No other time in your life you might know so many people who don't know the Lord, who need the gospel.